All right, go for it.
Good morning, good evening, and good morning, good evening. It's just good morning. It's good morning. It's the morning show. It's V, the Guerrilla Economist, with my main man, CJ, and we are coming to you live on Rogue Money Mornings. We give the news, the views, and all the information important to you. Hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, and give us a like. And also leave your comments in the comment section. It's all good. With that being said, also check out our sponsors, RemainCom.net. RemainCom.net, whether you need funds or you need to get your credit fixed, whatever you need, RemainCom is a place for you to get it done. Also check out the cryptoschool.io, thecryptoschool.io. And we're also on every single podcasting app, so check all that other good stuff out. Also, CJ, I forgot to mention this to you, man. 2:00 today. You know, we've been getting a lot of questions because it is tax season.
Yeah.
And 2:00 today, we're going to do a special. And I didn't get a chance to tell you this because this was off the cuff, off the fly. People have been asking questions about cryptos and taxes. 2 p.m. today, we're going to have a tax expert on. Yours truly will be interviewing him. And we're going to go through the litany of taxes. You know, if you have issues currently with the IRS, how to deal with it, meaning whether you owe back taxes or whatnot, you need to deal with it. You need to tune in today at 2 p.m. If you got cryptocurrencies and you got your Coinbase account, you're like, oh my God, I have over 20,000 in crypto sitting in Coinbase or one of these exchanges. What do I do? Well, you need to tune in. We're going to show you how to get around that or how to deal with that or how to manage that. And, you know, so tune in 2 p.m. today where we're going to do the show. Okay. If there's any changes that will happen, you know, let's just say, God forbid, something happens and we can't come on at 2 p.m. and we're going to have to do it the next day. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at The Rogue Money. I will make my announcement there if there are any changes. But right now, tentatively speaking, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it's going to be cryptos and taxes. Okay, so keep that in mind, folks. Cryptos and taxes today at 2 p.m. All right, Siege, with that out of the way, my man, what's crack-a-lackin', brother?
Hey, good morning, V. Good morning. You know, it appears that the path of is it Stockton, California, V, that is heading towards the path of socialism in America, and then its experiment that ultimately will fail. But it's just very interesting that this isn't, you know, gathering more national attention because I mean, let's face it, this is the bottom of the bucket, right?
Yep. We go down to Hotel California. What a stupid place. What an idiotic place. the Wonder Kids who run the state of California, okay? 6 years after bankruptcy, Stockton, California is preparing to start handing out free money. So basically, when Ben Bernanke was discussing, hey, helicopter Ben, okay, that whole concept of if I have to get on a helicopter and throw money out the window to stimulate the economy, I will. Folks, this just shows you that libtards have no concept of economics. Okay, no concept of it whatsoever. That's exactly what the city of Stockton, California is going to do. The pervasive poverty in the city is what led Stockton Mayor Michael Tubbs to announce last year that the city would soon begin an interesting social experiment because they believe it's going to stop poverty if we hand out $500. Starting later this year, a random sample of 300,000 Stockton residents. Gee, I wonder what that random sample is. Do you have to be a certain income? Right? I'm sure it's probably the welfare queens and the poverty-stricken that are there, will receive $500 every month, no strings attached. The program is set to become the U.S. largest experiment with a policy that has become a favorite topic of another idiot who has no clue of economics and just goes to show you that his entire operation is fake to begin with. The con man extraordinaire, Mark Zuckerberg. I like to replace the Z with an F in front of his name. His last name. Mark Zuckerberg and his Silicon Valley peers, universal basic income. This is so stupid. Stupid.
Yeah, I mean, if there's not enough fraud with, you know, Social Security and, all the government, right, the federal programs. Now we have a city that's going to experiment down the path of socialism, of providing, free money. This is going to, it's kind of an experiment to create some type of utopia, some type of, we got to help all it does is just, and study after study confirms this, that all it does is it keeps that type of society down even more. It builds a level of a need of government support. It lowers self-esteem, all these things that come with it. But go at it. They filed for bankruptcy and they have private money that's going to be funding this. Let them have at. Good luck.
Absolutely. This is the dumbest thing in the world. Our buddy Charles Hugh Smith put it perfectly. Okay. In what he describes as a radical critique of universal basic income, Charles Hugh Smith of Two Minds blog, which we have Charles on at least once a month, whenever he can join us. Love Charles. He's an amazing person, a great mind. And Charles said this, okay, far off from staving off the widening income inequality, would instead lead to de facto serfdom. But the radical critique goes much further. He said universal, or UBI, universal basic income, the best that we can do, with a question mark. Is that the best we can do? If we provide the basics of material security, the bottom level of Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, what about all the higher needs for positive social roles, meaningful work, and the opportunity to build capital? The critique reveals the unintended consequence of UBI. Rather than deliver a utopia, universal basic income institutionalizes serfdom and a two-class neo-feudalism in which the bottom 95% scrape by on UBI and other types of handouts, while the top 5% hoard what every human wants and needs: positive social roles in our community, meaningful work that makes us feel needed, and the opportunity to build capital in all its manifestations. Folks, the greatest, most empowering, most important thing for you as a person, for you as a human being, back in the days, in the ancestral days, it was hunting and gathering and planting later on when we became agriculturalists, okay? When man developed agriculture. But it was still hunting and gathering, okay? In other words, these are meaningful, positive social roles that were fulfilled in society. The farmer, the hunter, the tanner, the blacksmith. These are roles. These things have always existed. Okay? Positive social roles that make up the tapestry of human community that interlocks us in value. In other words, is this: when people are productive, when people have a functioning free market system where we all have businesses, where we all have roles, where we all have responsibilities, you are less inclined to screw another person out. You are less inclined to take advantage of another person because that can harm you in return. That is the beauty of the free market. It is a check and balance system. Okay? So this is the driver, folks. When you have universal basic income, what that does, it takes that beautiful balance of community and vibrancy, which has been distorted already by government the last several decades. Okay? It gets rid of the importance of meaningful work and production. It gets rid of meaningful work and production. All right? It is important that we as human beings, feel that we are constantly creating things, that we are bettering things, that we are moving forward as people and as a community and as a civilization, that our production individually is great and is great for the greater good. Okay? These things are taken away from us with this universal basic income. And most importantly, the opportunity to build capital. the opportunity for you to make your own capital, get wealthy, invest your own money, become the master of your own destiny. Universal basic income is a psychological trap that will denudder any sort of creative drive. It will dry up any wellspring of passion and progression that a person might have. It will extinguish the very inspirations that humanity needs in order for them to pull themselves up out of the very gutter and shackles that they might be in. That's what universal income does. You don't want it. It is not a solution. It is an incentivized institution that will absolutely create what every far leftist libtard has been circle jerking themselves over for the last several hundred years, and that is a neo-feudalistic society where the lords are on top and we, the serfs, are on the bottom. You do not want this, but these idiots not only want this, but they think it's a good idea. Why? This is the most craziest thing in the world. You have to be an evil tyrant in order for you to push this type of welfare. You have to be an evil tyrant. And those that are not learned would say, well, V, here's the deal. This is about, about caring for people. This has nothing to do with care. This has nothing to do with care. I am a caring and compassionate person. CJ is a caring and compassionate person. What we believe, the greatest thing that you can do to the poor is to get the government out of their lives. That is the greatest thing you can do. The greatest thing you can do for the poor is to get rid of welfare. The greatest thing. And granted, you might need welfare in the most austere of circumstances, and I'm for that. There has to be a little bit of a safety net, but not a system. There's a difference between a safety net and an exploited system. And what we have today, in the majority of cases, folks, is not a safety net, but an exploited system that creates a lifestyle. That is something we do not need. The greatest compassion that you can have on a poor person is not to constantly help them out, constantly give them the same person money over and over again, because that's the definition of insanity. The greatest thing you can do is take off the safety strings and then empower them. I am for nonprofit organizations empowering the poor. We know how to take care of our poor. How did we do it for this many years before welfare? How did we do it prior to 1960? How did we take care of the poor? And I'm often reminded, CJ, of the note that Benjamin Franklin has said when he went to France. He said when he went to France, he saw absolutely austere poverty, extreme poverty among the poor, okay, in France. And he said they are that poor because the government has inserted themselves into their lives with welfare back then. And Franklin said is the greatest institutional evil a government can do is try to help the poor, because you create a welfare class. You create a class of malcontents, ne'er-do-wells, and you create a class of dependents. We do not need this. It is a drag on society, and yet the libtards thinks it's wonderful.
Yeah, very well said, V. Very well said.
Moving forward, man, we got Fear and Loathing in South Korea, bro. And again, this kind of goes the route of China when, some of the shakedowns were happening with the exchanges in China. Excuse me. And those exchanges, when people are like, oh my God, all the crypto exchanges shut down in China. And the same thing's happening in South Korea. But CJ, what is this latest news, man?
Yeah, so we keep getting this news, this perspectives that, oh yeah, this country is going to shut down all cryptos, all ICOs, everything that's come about. So the other day, I guess, it was that China, a couple months ago, right? China was closing down everything, and now it's South Korea, and then now there's words of India. But coming back is that basically South Korea's finance minister has confirmed the government has no plans to shut down cryptocurrency trading or exchange platform. We're going to continue to see, this fear mongering. We called it back at the last quarter of last year, V, when we stated this year's plans will be to, put the fear in that something's going to happen, to utilize it, to state that the cryptocurrencies are being utilized for terrorist activities and all these events. And we'll continue to see this year, but he's basically has validated and stated that there's no part of the government is going to be looking at basically shutting down all cryptos and ICOs. Like many other countries are looking at ICO, trying to make sure that they're keeping the checks and balances with ICOs. But good, this is good news. This is just validating that South Korea is not out on a war path against the cryptocurrencies.
Correct. And nobody really is. There's no country really is out on the war path. Look, governments, when it comes to cryptocurrencies, okay? Governments, when it comes to cryptocurrency, is the equivalent of two blind men groping an elephant trying to describe what the animal is that they are touching. That's what governments are when it comes to cryptocurrency. Just
right, and just to validate it, some of the things we've repeatedly have said, and it went on. Korea's Fair Trade Commission chairman has basically went out and stated that shutting down cryptocurrency exchanges is not realistically possible based on electronic commerce law. The government does not have the authority to close down cryptocurrency trading platforms. It's almost impossible to do. If they do anything to the internet, there's always the Tor browsers, lots of ways around that. So they just need to stop with this fear mongering, and people need to stop, buying into it when they hear that, oh yeah, this government is shutting down all cryptos and ICOs. They just cannot do it, folks.
Exactly correct. Moving forward, brother, what is the next thing that we have lined up, man?
Do you want to cover the GE thing, the kind of hidden tale regarding GE's bookkeeping?
Yeah, let's do that. This is fun. Go ahead, CG, start it off.
Well, Jack Welch. Everyone thinks that when you think of G, you think of Jack Welch.
Oh, he's a genius. He's a genius.
all of his acclimates of
when they mention Jack Welch, all the fanboys bust out the bottles of lotion and they're ready to go. Go ahead, buddy.
No. You're exactly right. Yeah, there's numerous books written about it, but as it turns out, V, it looks like they could be fudging their numbers a little bit.
Oh, you don't say.
In fact, it looks like, hang on a second. Let me bring this up real quick. So it appears that earlier this month, General Electric took a $6.2 billion charge to its insurance unit for fourth quarter, and the company said it will set aside another $15 billion over 7 years to bolster reserves at GE Capital. Now, the long story regarding this article is the fact that GE, which for one time was a very financially sound company, but appears that somewhere along the lines when Jack Welch really started taking over, that we saw them kind of cooking their books, moving certain assets within their different business groups. They've actually paid massive fines for this. And the underlying message is here is that how many other companies are doing this very exact same thing just to report to their stockholders that, yes, we beat estimates by $1, when in fact they're just moving debt from one group to another. And this is actually, what's happening at GE right now, V.
I thought that Jack Welch was a maestro, a maven. All this time we were wondering how this idiot. He's not an idiot. He's a great con man. We're all wondering how this guy was making GE so damn profitable in a very, very, very competitive marketplace. Now it all makes sense. Now, if GE's doing this and they're one of the biggest boys on the block, who else is doing this? And the list goes on. And folks, this is what happens. Why? This is what happens in, the the stock market with all these companies trying to really gutsy up their stocks, make their the market caps looking as best as possible. And it's hilarious. This is Jack Welch with his Six Sigma management courses. Oh my god!
Yeah, and it's just exactly just cooking the books, and we've seen this time after time. But this should be a wake up call. Alarm bell to go off that how many other companies are doing this exact same thing. So yeah, so it's a good read. So check it out. just easily Google, or you can look up at the browser to see the link to check out that article.
I love it. I love it. I mean, this is a company, dude. $140 billion company is GE. Okay, shares are down over 50%. Over a year, down 50%. Right? Company has $160 billion in debt. Fiscal year 2016, they lost $41 billion in cash. Okay, I mean. I love it. This is what I'm saying. These white elephants are being exposed for what they truly are, CJ. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Anyway,
you pick the last one. You pick the last one. Which one do you want from the deck?
Let me see here.
Look through them and see which one you want to.
Let's talk about the Justice Department and replacing Sessions, man. Let's do that.
That. I mean, this really caught me, and I'm not sure exactly why. Obviously there's a lot of speculation going out there, but it appears that Trey Gowdy will not be seeking re-election for his seat. He made the announcement yesterday. Now, he stated that specifically he was going to go back. He's obviously an attorney, but we're wondering, what kind of, is he being groomed for something? Is what we're getting at. Is he being groomed for, a Justice Department job, perhaps maybe, exactly right. So Gowdy has announced Wednesday that he won't seek re-election when his term expires, so he can return to work in the justice system. I will not be filing for re-election, yada, yada, yada. And we all know that many times that Trump has clashed with Reefer Madness Jeff Sessions. And we can only hope. We can only hope, right, that someone like Trey Gowdy potentially could step in. It's gonna be a huge leadership vacuum in Congress with Gowdy being out. But again,
but you want to know something?
What's that?
He did his part, bro.
Absolutely, he did his part.
His main goal, what he needed to do was get that memo out. Well, that memo was out. He hit that thing right out the ballpark. I think, would that be great if he becomes the Attorney General? Oh my God.
Yeah, Attorney General, or even in the Justice Department. He's just on point. A great leader. And there's no doubt we've been reporting about a lot of other people not seeking re-election regarding this whole thing coming down with illegal activity. This has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it.
Straight as an arrow. Nothing to do with it.
Yeah, so he's obviously being groomed for a higher position, and it's a responsible thing to do for his state. Not to keep his constituents guessing what his activities are. So this will allow someone else to step in and run for election. So we want to wish Trey Gowdy great luck, and we'll be following.
Absolutely. And let's just see here. Data finally let's just do one more, bro. Let's do one more. Let's talk about data getting worse in Afghanistan. U.S. losing badly in Afghanistan. What? I thought we're succeeding greatly. What's going on here? 16 plus years into the U.S. invasion into the area of the world that is known as the Empire Eater. Something about Afghanistan. There's some sort of supernatural power in Afghanistan that's where empires go to die. Okay, that's where empires go to die. That's where Alexander the Great went to die. That's where the Grecian Empire died, the Persian Empire died. I mean, every single friggin' empire. The Brits died there, the Russians died there. Now it's our turn. Tag, we're it. 16 years into the U.S. invasion and occupation of Afghanistan, the war is going badly. That's hardly news. The U.S. has been losing the Afghan war for quite some time now, and every new release of data shows the situation is getting worse and worse. Beyond doubling down on the failing, let's just call it the frailing and failing strategy, which isn't working, the Trump administration seems to have made high priority of offering less and less public information on the war, not only to keep the quote-unquote enemy from knowing U.S. plans, but in practice also keep the American voters from knowing just how bad is it going. On Tuesday, Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction revealed that he was struggling to get permission to even release unclassified data in his report to Congress. Data that was later released by the Pentagon, along with the BBC estimates, however, show an ever worsening situation. The Pentagon data claims that 60% of the Afghan population is under government control. The lowest percent in the war, while the BBC study says the Taliban is contesting around 70% of the country. In other words, outside of maybe 10 blocks in Kabul, we control nothing. That's the translation. I've been saying this for years, okay? For years. Why are we there? Why are we there? Apart from the opium, why are we there? Well, dare I say, I get it. This is maybe a compromise move where the military-industrial complex gets their jollies off. This will end. All our little foreign escapades, the 300,000 troops, that are in 192 countries that we have dispersed throughout the world. And out of those 192 countries, we had 149 of those countries had special operation forces actively engaged. This is the most ridiculous thing in the world. This all comes to an end when the dollar ends. And the dollar is going to end very soon. The dollar is coming down. You see, folks, we are in death race the dollar. This is no longer death race Damascus, because that's been done and dealt with. The Russians have put a kibosh on those globalist plans that they had for Syria. This is death race dollar. Mogadishu on the Potomac, which is a good buddy of mine who served in the military. Great guy, brilliant mind. Sherman, if you're listening, hats out, a salute and a hands off to you, buddy. Hats off to you, buddy. He said it best, and he called it Mogadishu on the Potomac, because that's exactly what Washington, D.C. is. These are the most craziest, insane idiots. They sit around, circle jerk each other in their vacuum of a worldview that is devoid of any sort of modernity, any sort of latest real intel, and they're surrounded by yes men. So, of course, we're in Afghanistan. Of course, we're in Iraq. Of course, we're everywhere. I mean, let's be honest here, folks. Okay? The only reason why we're in Afghanistan is to stop a pipeline and then the opium. The only reason why we're in Syria is to stop a pipeline. The only reason why that after September the 11th, 2001, we went into Iraq is to stop the sale of oil in euros, period. Has nothing else to do with, we're going to hunt them down. We're going to bring them to justice. Now watch this drive. Had nothing to do with, if we don't fight them there, we got to fight them here. It has nothing to do with, they hate us because of our freedoms. No, you idiot. They don't hate you in particular. They hate your government because of its foreign policy. And again, this year, the Trump administration, until it's corrected the foreign policy, I'm glad there's no greater regional war, but it's still an F in my book. The foreign policy sucks. I'm glad it's going to go into a severe F if a war breaks out. But things must be done accordingly. And hopefully, when this dollar's done and the idiots in the military-industrial complex, which is another gaggle of circle jerkers, then, and only then, we can start moving forward as a country. And that's my take on the siege.
Well said, V. Yeah, and don't forget, hopefully today the memo gets released. Yesterday, the Cold War in D.C. went hot. I think it's safe to assume at this point, V, that anything that happens, the train accident yesterday, that nothing is a coincidence at this point. So, right. We just need to be on alert and keep monitoring. And for our audience, in the event that something does happen, whatever, we'll deliver that news to you just as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. With that being said, I am the gorilla. He is the El Cuco, and we are over and out. Take it away, CJ.